So after knowing about everything, everything has been revealed about Ursula and Ralph Patten. What we are unsure about, what we do not know till this very moment, is the location of Ralph Patten. Right. So let's see when he comes up. We will be if you see the chapter names, you can easily guess when Ralph will be coming up. But here in chapter 23 we see a little reunion. Little reunion of whom? Poirot's little reunion. Chapter 23 of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is titled Poirot's Little Reunion. Why? Because here people will be coming, all the people who are involved in this case, not as the culprit, but not always as the culprit, but as a suspect or any kind of link. Okay. So what we get here is that this reunion will be for Poirot, where he would be describing such things which are not in knowledge with other people. Clear? So, and this will be one of the first steps where we get to know, or where we get to publish the reality or publish the truth about certain things which were still hidden for everyone. Okay, so let's start. So in the beginning of the chapter we see that Caroline says, "And now rising, the child is coming upstairs to lie. Do not worry, my dear Mr. Poirot. We'll do everything he can for you. Be sure of that." So Caroline, the sister of Dr. Shepherd, is saying that this person, that is Ursula, should stay over here. She need not to go back to the Fernley. But what we say here is that in the next line only, Ursula says that she ought to go back to the Fernley. Okay, that is Fernley Park. But on the other hand, Caroline is instigating, or Caroline is insisting that Ursula should remain here. She silences every protest, and what we find here is that she says that from this very moment you will stay here for the present anyway with Mr. Poirot, with M. Poirot. Clear? So what we find here is that the Belgian detective agrees, and what we find here is that he is also she is also being invited to this little reunion. Okay, Ursula tells Poirot that she would go back to Fernley Park, but Caroline insists that she should stay at Shepherd's house rather, where Poirot will be present, and Poirot agrees to that. Okay, agreeing to this, following that, Ursula is being asked to attend the little reunion that will be happening. Clear? So if you have read other novels by Agatha Christie, you would see this little reunion thing is a staple one in her novels. Okay, so this gathering together to hear Poirot announce the identity of the murderer or the killer or the culprit is a common thing. It is a staple thing in most of the novels of Agatha Christie. So that is what is happening. Clear? When Ursula and Caroline are out of the room, what we see? We see that Dr. Shepherd tells Poirot that the case against Ralph Patten looking strong. Clear? It appears that Ralph might be the murderer. Clear? Poirot to that agrees and mentions offhandedly that he wishes his friend Hastings were around, especially since Hastings liked to write about Poirot's cases. Clear? So, in most of the detective stories, what we have seen that the sidekick or the assistant had been the writer of the story. Right. So, what we find here is that this writing of the story is done by the assistant. Okay. So, this is what is happening over here. He says that he is missing Hastings, who is his sidekick or assistant, you might say, and he is missing that. And what we see here is that Dr. Shepherd is turning the whole story, or is hinting that the whole situation is against Ralph Patton. Okay, as he says that so far so good, he said, things are straightening themselves out. He here means Poirot. They are getting to look blacker and blacker against Ralph Patton, I observed gloomily. So that is what I said, that Dr. Shepherd said that this person, Ralph is getting, the case is getting murkier, is getting blacker against Ralph. Okay, because he is getting more and more involved within this case. Clear? The suspicion is becoming more strong against him. Clear? Yes, that is so, but it was to be expected, was it not? So Poirot nodded to that and mentions that it was expected that the case will be more and more against him. It will turn more and more against him. It is a proven fact, or it is fact. What we see here is that after he mentions that he misses Hastings because he used to write records of the cases that proved interesting, Dr. Shepherd says, as far as that goes, I began and then stopped. Poirot sat upright in his chair, his eyes sparkled. But yes, what is it that you would say? Well, as a matter of fact, I read some of Captain Hastings' narratives, and I thought, why not try my hand at something of the kind? Seemed a pity, and not too unique opportunity, probably the only time I will be mixed up with anything of this kind. So, Dr. Shepherd is saying that he has read about Hastings' work. Okay, Dr. Shepherd sheepishly tells Poirot that he has read some of Hastings' work, and he himself has tried to write something about the murder. Okay, he has been involved in writing about this murder, and he says that he will be involved in this case for only one time, and he has not left that opportunity. He has started writing. I felt myself getting hotter and more incoherent as I floundered through the above speech. Poirot sprang from his chair. I had a moment's terror that he was going to embrace me in French fashion, but mercifully he refrained. But this is magnificent. You have then written down your impressions of the case as you went along. I nodded. So Poirot becomes very excited when he hears that Dr. Shepherd had actually written down the informations or the happenings of the case, the things that had happened throughout the case. What we find here is that Dr. Shepherd's narrative is this story, right? So we might assume that these are the things that he has written. Clear? So and that is what we are seeing over here, So, in spite of missing Hastings, what we find here is that Hastings not being present in this case, what we see that the story is being narrated, okay, and the story is being narrated and it is also being written by Dr. Shepherd, who is the narrator. Clear? Poirot, after hearing this, he says that he would be willing, very much willing, to see this manuscript. Okay, so Poirot asks to see the manuscript, and Shepherd shows him 20 chapters of the book he has been writing all week, and Poirot sits down to read it. Clear? So what we find here is that this kind of camaraderie, this kind of bonding had always been between Hastings and Poirot. But what we find here is that this same kind of description, same kind of thing is happening over here, where the narrator, in previous stories it had been Hastings, but here what we find here that the doctor over here, the Dr. Shepherd, that is writing the story and is now handing over this to Poirot. Okay, he says that pile of manuscript which I handed over to him with an eye on possible publication in the future. So he had this wish of publishing that in the future. I left him with them. So after giving that, and what he says that I had divided the work into chapters, and the night before I had brought it up to date with an account of Miss Russell's visit. Okay, so the story that has been written by Dr. Shepherd is being placed, is being up to the mark of what can you say, when Miss Russell visited here. Okay, so it is up to that point. Clear? So Poirot had therefore 20 chapters. If you also see chapter number 20 of this book, that is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, it deals with Miss Russell. Clear? So the last two chapters, this is the 23rd chapter, the last two chapters, that is 21 and 22, is not yet written by Dr. Shepherd. So we can consider that this story, this book's narrative is equal to the narrative of Dr. Shepherd that he has written and given to this person, Poirot. Okay, so what we see here is that as a novel comes to an end, okay, as it is progressing towards the end, Ralph Paton seems like to be the most obvious killer, right, as has been the case throughout the book, because he has been the prime suspect throughout the book. Clear? The passage also suggests that the murder of Roger Ackroyd is itself the manuscript that Dr. Shepherd has written down. Okay, it gives a novel a kind of self-referential material, okay, a kind of metafiction tone, okay, where the tone has already been implied in the character of the Caroline or any other character who often seems to be commenting on the conversation of the mystery novels, right? So it is at one point a reality, it gives a sense of reality at one point that is actually happening, and at the same time it gives a sense or portrays a sense of fiction at another point. Okay, so this narrative or the mentioning of this narrative or the manuscript portrays this in that way. Clear? So after giving him the manuscript, after giving Poirot the manuscript, Dr. Shepherd left him with them. I was obliged to go out to a case at some distance away. It was past 8 o'clock when I got back to be greeted with a plate of hot dinner on the tray and the announcement that Poirot and my sister had supped together at 7:30. Clear? So, doctor had to go out in order to see some patient. But when he returns at it was past 8 o'clock. When he returns, he is greeted with a hot plate of dinner. But informatively, what we find that he comes to know that Poirot had dinner at 7:30 with his sister. So, what we find here is that Poirot has told him about the manuscript. Right? Poirot had told Caroline about the manuscript, and that is why she is saying, I hope, James, said my sister, that you have been careful in what you say about me in it. Obvious small tricks and small fun-loving thing where sister would already asking that you have portrayed me in good light, you have portrayed me well, right? So what we see here is that a while later, Poirot finishes the manuscript and compliments Dr. Shepherd on his modesty and everything. He says that while Hastings made himself a main character in the books, Dr. Shepherd has purposely kept himself in the background. Okay, that is what he is saying or is commenting about it. Clear? So Poirot's vision or Poirot's understanding of the story gives us outlook about his wholeheartedness. Why wholeheartedness? Because he wants to grasp everything that is coming to his way. Okay. The last two is also being written by Dr. Shepherd, but he has not completed that two or the next sections when he was presenting the manuscript. Clear? So what we find here is that at the time when he was presenting the manuscript, at that very moment, Dr. Shepherd could only complete up till chapter 20, that is the visit of Miss Russell. Clear? He says that Poirot says that Dr. Shepherd has kept himself in the background, whereas Hastings, when he used to write, he would be focusing more and more on himself. Okay, he would make himself a primary character or himself the main character. Okay. Poirot then invites Shepherd over to his house for his meeting with the suspects. What we see here is that, or what we get to feel here is that this person, that is Poirot, is inviting all the suspects over here, right, to have a little conversation and to have, might be in order to reveal the actual murderer or what is happening. But another thing that we see here is that we get a feel that he might be believing Dr. Shepherd. He might be taking him as an assistant. When you read the story without the help of a teacher or without me saying what kind of actions is happening, you would get the feel that he is just asking Dr. Shepherd to come over to his place in order to be present as an assistant. Okay, that is what his main motive is. We would get to feel. But as we are by the end of the story, and as you have to read this for your exams, I would like to say, I would like to make it clear that this is not just about what can you say, making the what you say the suspects or making the assistant come along only, but what we find here is that Dr. Shepherd might also be a suspect, which is never mentioned till this very point. Okay, so this assembly of the suspects is coming along, and what we find here is that this is being invited. This reunion has been, not reunion, rather union of people is being happening. Yes, you can say it also a reunion, because the union had, or the meeting had happened before also in Roger's house. Clear? So what I find here is that Shepherd asks Dr. Shepherd to come to his house. He apologizes for being unable to invite Caroline into that house, but insists that it needs to remain confidential. Okay. However, Poirot still wants to bring Ursula with him to the meeting. He insists that that very evening he will expose Roger's killer. Okay, so what we find here is that like many of the narrators of mystery novel, Dr. Shepherd has fairly ordinary character, has been a fairly ordinary character, okay, who remains completely in the background of the book, who never tries to supersede with his actions and everything. However, Poirot seems to think that there is a difference between Hastings' styles and of narrating and the Shepherd style, because perhaps he wants to suggest that Shepherd might be hiding something, and in order to hide something, he is actually keeping himself in the background. Okay, that something that he is hiding, as the very important line I have told over and over again, which has been said by Poirot. He says that you all might have been hiding something, right? So every one of you is hiding something, এরকম কিছু একটা বলেছিল, right? So what we find here is that this when he was saying this, when Poirot was saying this, all the people who were present there have come up to clear everything about their own self, about the things that they were hiding. Okay, even in the last chapter, Ursula has come out of her shell to expose everything, to reveal everything, right? But in that room, another person was also present. That was Dr. Shepherd. We might think that Dr. Shepherd is the assistant. He is assisting, and it might be the reason he was not being asked, or he has not been said that by Poirot that he is also hiding something. But this coming up, this asking of Poirot to come over and join the little reunion gives us a hint that Shepherd might also be hiding something from Poirot, which is still unknown to Poirot, or still unknown to the readers. Clear? Because if he had been asked, or if he had been invited to the case, we might get a feel that it is because of he is the assistant. Caroline should also have been invited, right? Because Caroline had given him most number of informations which were really helpful. But now what we see here is that Caroline is not being asked to come. Clear? We will see that because Poirot is actually having a humane figure and is actually trying to save Caroline from some kind of humiliation by knowing certain things which he wants to keep it hidden. Okay, some secrets which might be which Caroline should not know, because he says that he does not want to expose everything. He insists that that things should remain confidential. Okay, so what we find here is that this passage is another example of the growing divide between Shepherd and Poirot. Okay, who at one point seemed to be a good friend of Poirot, but what we find here is that when the suspects are being questioned or the suspects are being asked to come, Dr. Shepherd is also being asked to join. Clear? So in Poirot's home, when we go in Poirot's home, what we find that Dr. Shepherd sees that he has arranged the guest chairs so that they are batted in the bright light, leaving one chair where presumably Poirot himself will sit. Clear? So what we find here is that everything is being set according to Poirot's wish, and what we see here is that Poirot is actually planning to reveal who the person, the name of the person who killed Mr. Ackroyd. Clear? What we find here is that it is interesting to note the dialogues over here. Okay, if you see the dialogues, you will see that these dialogues are important. We would go line by line in certain cases. When he says that, page number in my book, it is page number 330. Page number 329, for example, last line. I should much like to have had you present, mademoiselle, he said regretfully, but at this juncture it would not be wise. See, you all these people tonight are suspects. Among them I shall find the person who killed Mr. Ackroyd. So what he is saying? He is saying that I would like to invite you. He is saying that I would like to invite, he is saying to Caroline, I would like to invite you, but what you see here is that at this very moment all these people are suspect, and it would not be wise to call you among them, because you are the only one who is clear of any suspicion list, right? So what I would like to ask you, what I would like to say to you here is that you do not come over to this place. What we see here is that what we get the hint over here is that as he has also involved this person, that is Dr. Shepherd, and he, following that dialogue, he says that everyone who is present is a suspect. So we get to know, or we clearly feel, or we clearly get that Dr. Shepherd might also be the suspect. It is never said clearly. For a naive reader, for a first time reader, it would appear that Dr. Shepherd is accompanying Poirot, or is being asked to accompany Poirot in order to clearly get a view of the story, because he is his assistant. But no, here what we get here is that he is also a suspect according to Poirot. Clear? And also, as I was telling you about the divide that is happening between Dr. Shepherd and this person, Poirot, that the same dialogue expresses so. He says that I shall find the person who killed Mr. Ackroyd. Amongst them, I shall find the person who killed Mr. Ackroyd. Right? To that reply, he said, "You really believe that?" I said incredulously. This is the dialogue. This is being said by Dr. Shepherd. Dr. Shepherd says that you seriously believe that you would be able to find that person who is the murderer. Right? So it shows, or it feels for a reader, it gives a feeling for a reader that you are actually, or the Poirot is actually being challenged. পয়েরটকে যেন চ্যালেঞ্জ করা হচ্ছে, তুমি কি সত্যিই পারবে, তুমি বিশ্বাস করো তুমি হচ্ছে এটা পারবে, কারণ উই আর nowhere close to the murderer. Okay, I see that you do not, said Poirot dryly. Not yet do you appreciate Hercule Poirot at this true worth. See the divide between these two people. See a clash of what can you say, ego, or a clash of mentality, where in a kind of sarcasm or in a kind of belittling, Dr. Shepherd asks, do you really believe that you would be able to find out that person who had murdered Mr. Ackroyd? To that reply, Poirot dryly, without any emotion, says that it seems that you do not have any true value, or you have true appreciation for Hercule Poirot. Okay, it seems that you do not believe in me. Okay, you have no belief, you have no trust in me in understanding, or I might be able to get hold of anything. Okay, get hold of, or get to, what can you say, get to catch hold of that person, right, the murderer. Clear? So there is this certain kind of tension between them. Okay, for a first time reader it might be a problem for understanding this tension, but it is very subtle. Okay, so at that minute Ursula came down the staircase. You are ready, my child, said Poirot. That is good. We will go to my house together, Mademoiselle Caroline. Believe me, I do everything possible to render your service. Good evening. We went off, leaving Caroline rather like a dog who has been refused a walk, standing on the front door step, gazing after us. The sitting room at the Larches has been got ready. On the table were various syrups and glasses, also a plate of biscuits. Several chairs had been brought in from other room. Poirot ran to and fro, rearranging things, putting out a little chair here, altering the position of a lamp there, occasionally stooping to straighten up the mat and cover the floor. He was specially fussing over the lighting. Okay, so as I said that the chairs were placed where we see the lamps are arranged in such a way as to throw a clear light on the side of the room. Okay, where the chairs were grouped together or placed together. At the same time, what we see that leaving the other end of the room would be in a dark, or presumably hidden or dim light way. Clear? So every light and dark symbol is applied over here, where we get to see that these people are the suspects and the light is falling on them, and the person who is out of any suspect or has not yet been revealed will be in this dim light. Clear? Ursula and I watched him. Presently a bell was heard, and what we see, This bell indicates that these people who have been asked to come has arrived. Good, all the readiness. So the door opened and the party from Fernley filled in. Poirot went forward and greeted Mrs. Ackroyd and Flora. Clear? So let's end it here today. But what we see here is that Poirot is setting up a stage, as if he is setting up a stage for a play to be enacted or a revelation to come. And what we find here is that this revelation is being made in such a way that it appears as if a dramatic one. Okay, the readers are becoming the audience in the theater, and they are waiting to see what are the things are going to happen, what are the things that are going to be showcased over here. Okay, so what we find here is that this showcasing of the thing is being done consciously by Poirot in order to bring in the whole story to light. Okay, why whole story to light? Because if you leave one point missing in a narrative, narrative of mystery fiction or murder fiction, the story will never be complete. It is like a jigsaw puzzle. One or two pieces are missing in that puzzle, you cannot complete the story, right? So every suspect, every person who has been the suspect needs to be present over here, and they need to be cleared out. Okay, they need to be cleared out of the suspicion list by presenting what they are actually, what their real motives were and what they actually did. Else that question mark about their involvement in the murder or any kind of crime would still be lurking around. So everyone has been called out, has been placed in the light in order to clear out the story, clear out everything. Clear? So let's end it here today, though chapter 23 it does not end here. The next drama, the dramatic portion starts from here. So the stage is set for the drama to happen. Okay.